Breaking news. The IDF have just released that they're conducting a serious investigation regarding what seems to be a possible execution of alleged hostiles, terrorists that surrendered in Jenin. The IDF take these things very, very seriously. This just came out right now, surfacing with videos from numerous sources where they were filming these soldiers apprehending what seems to be these suspects, possible terrorists, most likely terrorists. And then they take them out and they go on their knees. And later on, the soldiers seems to be as they shot them. And the suspects. I'm not so sure what exactly happened, but probably they got uh, killed in the operation. Now I'm gonna show you the video here. I've edited some parts to keep it not so gory, so it's not too hard for the viewers to watch. So I blurred some images, but let's talk about it because these are very, very serious allegations. So over here you see these suspects coming out. Apparently they were chasing them or fighting with them for quite some time. From what I managed to gather, they threw some devices at them, explosive devices, and trying to trap them. And then when the IDF caught them, he asked them to go out. Here you can see what seems to be an IDF soldier or the border patrol. It's a little bit hard to see from these uniforms. That's definitely an IDF soldier, and that's the moment where it's believed to be an execution. And I'll explain to you why I say an execution. And we need to make things very clear. We are not here to cover the truth. We are not here to talk only when things make us look good. We're here to actually to talk about everything and bring everything to the light. And if ever Israel does a mistake, we're the first one to come and stand and say this was a mistake. Now, I was an officer in the IDF, and I was in the special forces, and I was in the regular forces, and I can tell you for a fact that the code of conduct of the IDF does not allow these kind of actions. With that said, people are always very quick to jump to conclusions. We don't know exactly what happened there. We don't know. Trust me when I say it, as someone who was a soldier in the IDF and who was in many, many situations like that. Very intense combat situations, some of them including possible suicide bombers that we believe to even have vests on them when I was apprehending them. And things can get very, very complicated. And when someone is watching from far away without the elements of audio or video or just context, it's very easy sometimes to misunderstand and misinterpret it. With that said, what we saw here definitely seems to be a very, very concerning image that does not go hand in hand with the code of conduct of the IDF. So I'm going to read for you a little bit of the news from Israel. This is coming right now. And like I said, we don't want to jump to conclusion, but we're going to try to figure out together what is happening here. So from what is saying like this is Ynet, an Israeli news outlet, one of the biggest ones in Israel. And they're saying this. The IDF is investigating a very severe, odd incidents. The suspects came out of the building, surrendered, and then later on were shot to death. In the video that was published from Jenin, I'm reading it from Hebrew right now. Two suspects leaving the building go on their knees, lift up their arms in the air as a sign of surrender, and then they go back into the building and are shot to death. From an unknown reason yet, this incident is still going under investigation and will go to the relevant authorities. From the IDF and the police, it was said that was said from the IDF and the police. Ben Gvir is already backing up the soldiers and is saying they operated exactly as they were expected. Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't. Hey, Lee. Hello, everyone who joined the show. So let me feel well, Lee. Feel well, Lee. Pray for you as well. Let me tell you guys one thing. As an officer who was in the IDF, and Ben Gvir was not an officer in the IDF, with all due respect. He was not even a soldier in the IDF. There's a code of conduct that you must follow. And that is you don't execute prisoners. You don't execute hostile enemies, when they surrendered, the only time you shoot to kill is when there's two elements, and that's the code for the IDF. When there is an object of danger, let's say a grenade, a weapon, a Molotov bottle, a knife, even. So, an object that someone can kill with, and when there's an intent. So, just holding a knife in your hand, or even just holding a gun in your hand, and you don't see an intent, you're not allowed to open fire in the IDF. Now, intent can be interpreted in many ways. I mean, someone holding a gun, it can be a second before he pull the trigger. So when is the intent? When he's aiming at you, when he's down, when he's up. So there's a lot of things that trained soldiers need to be able to identify on the spot. But when someone is lifting his arms up and he's on his knees, it's quite clear that there was not an intent there. With that said, we don't know if one of them suddenly said grenade or a suicide vest. Many times these, I'll show you the image again, but many time when these suspects come out, they come and they try to lure the IDF into a trap, and then they activate a suicide bomber vest or something, suicide belt, and they kill everyone around them. So you need to be always very alert. Now, if that was the case and that was the argument, there's one thing that kind of bothers me in this image here, and you might have seen it in the video, that one of the soldiers, first of all, they asked them to come out, so they bring them close to them. So that was already a big mistake in terms of professionalism from the soldiers. If they do have a suicide vest on them, you don't want to be close to them. There's a very simple rule that I used to train my soldiers all the time. If you see the explosive device sees you. It's that simple. So you always want to be behind cover and without a direct projectile unless it's far away from it. So here they're calling it out, and then you see one of the soldiers coming and kicking them, and then they move them a little bit inside, and then they shoot them. So could it be that they were operating out of intense pressure and did a few mistakes? Well, you know what? Like any army in the world, soldiers do mistakes. And sometimes it's not that easy to follow all the books that were written and all the rules that were written in blood, but still sometimes you forget. So maybe they realize, okay, let's keep them away from us. We did a mistake. Now they're going. And maybe one of them just came suddenly and said, Allah Akbar, and maybe showed a sign that made these soldiers get edgy, triggered, or even scared, and they shot. We don't know. I am not here to try to defend an execution. Never. I'm not here to try to defend or hide dirty laundry. If the IDF did a mistake, I'm trusting on the IDF, I'm trusting on Israel to do the utmost full investigation and to bring the truth to light and also to follow justice. Because it doesn't matter how much you hate the terrorists and how much you're angry about your enemy, there's some rules that you don't break and you want to maintain. And one of these very important aspects is the morality of your army. And you must always hold your military to the highest level of morality. Otherwise, you will end up ending like the enemy. One thing that they taught us in the officer academy when I was in the IDF is the whole vision of Ben Gurion when he made the rule to have the IDF as a mandatory service army, not as a professional army where you have a small amount of soldiers that train and go for a career, but a mandatory army for the entire nation of Israel. Well, part of it was literally need to fight to survive and defend your country. But another part was the ideology behind it. And he says, Am bonet tzava bone am. A nation will build an army that will build a nation in return. And the idea was, and that's what they told us as soldiers, as officers, you're going to get soldiers that are going to come to you. Either you're going to pick them up from their parents and train them, or you're going to get them after training. And then you need to remember your job is not to train them only to become vicious, deadly, lethal soldiers. Because later on, these guys are going to go back to become parents, school teachers, taxi drivers, accountants, lawyers. They're going to be the fabric of your society, economically, morality, and education-wise, and etc. So you want to make sure that you also take care of their heart, their mind, and their soul. Not only teach them how to fight and to become deadly, because this is the role of soldiers. They need to be deadly, and they need to be dangerous, and they need to be very capable of fighting. But in the IDF, they put a lot of emphasis on the morality, and that should never be taken away. So for what Ben Gvir is jumping right now, I understand, okay, you want to defend your guys and back them up, but let's see the investigations first. If they did execute terrorists who surrendered, shot them blank on the spot, then they should face justice. They should face the system of Israel, the legal system of Israel, because we cannot allow that, because otherwise, and when people get angry and support these things, they're very short-sighted. Okay, you know what? Yeah, let's go and just do whatever we want to do, and we don't care. Well, guys, you know what? Israel, first of all, is Syria. It's not Palestine. Israel is not Gaza. Second of all, Israel is part of the Western civilization. And there is a requirement of some moral standards that you must uphold when you're part of this community. And if you start doing stuff like that, or allowing stuff like that, or don't hold people who do stuff like that accountable, then the West will start looking at Israel as a country that have just morally bankrupt. And many of the countries in the West have morally bankrupt. So, I'm not just saying, but we haven't yet, and we shouldn't. And that's why I think it's very, very important to do that. Like I said, thank you so much here, brother. Hey, listen, we got to be transparent. We got to be transparent. If we do a mistake, we will not let it go. I'll give you an example. In Syria, the citizens of Syria, as per Jawlani, went and massacred and slaughtered the Alawites, the Druze, the Christians, and every time there's an excuse, oh, it wasn't us, it wasn't the government, it was just civilians, and then they keep saying, yeah, we're gonna bring them to justice. Even that guy the suicide bomber that went with 4 other people and blew himself inside of a church in Syria. So he went inside, blew himself. They tried to fight him off. He blew himself, killed, I think, like 26 people. And then there were people shooting from outside. So he was helped apparently by several Syrian Muslim jihadists, maybe 4 or 5. The Syrian government said that we will persecute them, we will find them, bring them to justice. As far as I know, none of these men was brought to justice. As far as I know, none of the tens of thousands of Syrians that went and slaughtered the Alawites and the Druze and massacred and beheaded and kidnapped women and children, not a single one was brought to justice. That is for you guys, Syria. That is for you guys, Palestine. That is for you guys, Gaza, where they glorify killing and reward it. Pay for slay, for example. In Israel, we won't do that. We will never do that. And we hold our soldiers to the higher standard of morality. And that's why I think it's very, very important. Now we're going to continue. I see that Need is asking a question here. Are protests in Syria successful against Julani? No, they're not successful against Julani. And I'll explain, actually. There's a few things we're going to keep watching right now. So let's go, because there's other updates that I think will be very interesting for you. So as you can see here, these are the suspects, and that's later on the IDF covering the bodies, and they want to investigate. For those of you who don't know, Jenin is, well, it's in Hebrew here, but you see the first one is Bet Shean, the top right. The one, you don't see my mouse. The one next to it is considered Jenin. This is called the Mechumash HaKfarim. It's several villages that are very problematic. There's Tulkarim, Bat Hefer, Aqaba, Tubas, Far'a, Taysir, and Tamun. Bet Shean is right next to them. You can see the border there. So Jenin is a very, very problematic hub of terrorists. There's a lot of activity there on behalf of the jihad, the Muslim jihad, on behalf of Hamas and Fatah and other organizations. And they keep trying to incite more violence towards Israel, and they're even talking about, initiating their own October 7 version and invading Israel from there. And as you can see, the border is very, very small between Jenin to Bet Shean. The first one on the right is Bet Shean. Right next to it is Jenin. Next time I'll bring you a map in English. and you can see, and very, very close. So Israel is working, intensifying its work right now. Let's keep reading, actually. So the IDF is investigating this very, very disturbing investigation in the work of the Border Patrol. Yes, I was right, which is part of the police, and the IDF in the city of Jenin. The soldiers and the forces were chasing and arresting wanted terrorists, and some of them were wanted for throwing Molotov bottles and IEDs, which is improvised explosive devices, and shooting towards the IDF soldiers. And I believe that these guys here were part of the guys that actually threw the grenades and shot at the IDF, and then they ran away. As per the investigation here, or the announcement, these two were belonging to a terrorist group in Jenin. The forces entered the area, closed on the building where they were staying in, and the operation of closing on a building that went for several hours, which makes it very, very weird what happened here. And I'll explain to you why. As someone who's been in these operations, something just smells really fishy here. Several hours, they use several engineering devices and vehicles. Usually what happens is the IDF, once they close clockwise over a building that have terrorists inside, you want to make sure that they can't run away and no one can come and support them, and then you control the area. And then part of the negotiation and part of the fighting, to prevent the loss and risk for your soldiers, you will bring a D9 or a big tractor, and you will hit the wall a few times, shake the building on them. You'll be surprised what wonders it does when, brave as they are, once they're standing there and the roof about to fall on their head. Many, many terrorists in the past and in the future, they usually surrender. They surrender, they count out with their underwears, and suddenly, oh, they will fight to the death, and jihad and birroh bidam just flies out of the window, and they count out like cowards, and they just, please don't kill us, in their underwears. The reason they come in the underwears, by the way, because you don't want to. They want to see if they have explosive device on them or not, or concealed weapon. So several hours were closing on them, and then the suspects came out of the building. And as we saw in the video, they went on their knees and then they were executed, or allegedly executed. Well, they were shot, that's for sure. Why am I saying this is very, very suspicious or bizarre? Because this is not an incident where you'd say that 3-4 rogue soldiers, not even rogue, soldiers were on a patrol, the commander's not with them, the officer's not with them, they saw something, they chased a terrorist, they shot at them, maybe hurt his friend, and then after a long pursuit, they found them, and there's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of hate, a lot of anger, and then someone reacts out of rage or anger. You say it shouldn't happen, but these things can happen. But when you know that they were closing on them for several hours and they brought engineering devices, and you have the cooperation between forces here, you have the IDF and you have the police, border police, it means that there were commanders in the field. It means that there was communication. It means that there was some kind of strategic planning. The IDF works very organized, which makes this very, very odd. Now, possible PTSD, maybe, could be many, many other things that could have happened. Someone is saying the video is missing the part that one of them all of a sudden fall and try to escape before the soldier had the chance to verify they are not carrying explosive. Now, this could be, by the way, like I said, I mentioned in the beginning, this could possibly be a situation we're going to find out once the investigation goes out. Like I said, we were not there. We couldn't see, we couldn't smell, we couldn't feel. I've been in these situations before in my life where, for the untrained eye or from the outside, they could have judged what me and my soldiers have done in a very wrong way. But once you understand what really took place and happened, you realize, okay, they acted actually heroically, even. But from the side, with a different camera angle, things could have looked very, very different. Also, Greta did it. Yeah, exactly. So Ben Gvir is saying that he gives full support for the IDF soldiers. Now, around the afternoon, the Palestinians said that the IDF is working in Jenin and was sieging over a house. In part of the Operation Five Stones to counter terror, a few threats and attacks that were coming from the area of the Shomron, and it started on the last day. Helicopters were in the air, giving aerial support to the forces. The commando brigade, there's a commando brigade now. They kind of took a lot of the special forces, not the elite units, but the special units. There's a difference in the IDF. You have elite unit, commando unit, and then you have special unit. And they took some of the special units and they just combined them together into one big, called the commando brigade, which in many ways have added a lot of value because now they all work together and it's easier to utilize all their needs, all their specialties. But on the other hand, it also made it a little bit harder to fall from that training. And sometimes soldiers that would have not graduated the special training as before end up graduating. And the quality went a little bit down. That's from my experience, but still, it's a very good unit and they're very capable. So, as per the Palestinians, the IDF sent reinforcements and airplanes were flying low. During this operation, the security forces have searched more than 220 locations in that time simultaneously during this whole operation and investigated tens of suspects in the field and arrested a few more. The IDF often does that. These are called field investigations and they have units that are specialized for that. They're highly trained. Either the Shabak or the IDF have these units is people that go through rigid trainings and then they learn the language, the culture, and they learn how to investigate on the spot. Because sometimes you have what we call a ticking bomb incident where you don't have time to take that suspect to a temporary prison and then to the official prison and then have him processed by judge and extended his stay in prison because you need and then have a whole process of investigating which can take weeks sometimes. But by that time, if he knows someone that is walking right now with a suicide vest and about to go and do an attack, that attack would have already happened and people would have already lost their life. So there is exceptions when it's a ticking bomb operation where units like that have the capability to take decisions on the spot, on the field, and including investigations on the field to get the right information. As you can imagine, when you need to get information from a suspect regarding another suspect that he believes is a ticking bomb, these investigations can become very rough. And everything is registered and done under the law, but it needs to follow the right criteria for that to happen. So, as per the IDF, from these areas, they took many from these Palestinian areas where they worked at. Many terrorist attacks came against Israel and its civilians for the last year. The operation started yesterday in the morning and focused in most of it in these Mechumash Kfarim, in this triangle, 5 angles. I don't know how you call triangle with 5 angles in English. In Hebrew, we call it Mechumash, of these villages that have in it Tamun, Tuvas, and Far'a, and forces from all over the region came and started looking for military equipment, illegal military equipment, and a lot of stuff were done with the help of the Shabak and other intelligence forces. So that was just a brief about that, guys. Now, in a different topic, I want to talk to you about what's happening in Syria because something big is happening in Syria, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll probably want to know about it. So let's keep watching. The Ministry of Defense, Israel Katz, came and said that we know, and that was apparently a classified document that was allowed to be revealed, that there is Palestinian forces in Syria that are rearming and regrouping and getting ready to invade the Golan Heights and the towns in the Golan in the northern part of Israel and to do again another October 7th. And this is happening as we speak. And Israel need to be prepared for that. Meanwhile, while this is happening, we had simultaneously the Druze in a once in a lifetime. I'm telling you seriously right now, I have never thought in my life that I will see the video you're about to see. Never in my life did I think that I will see convoys of cars and vehicles and families in Syria of Druze, a highly oppressed minority in Syria, like the Christians and others, walking in the streets with flags of Israel. Here, you can see some Druze here in the crowd saying, wow, they know what I'm talking about. He's a Druze from Lebanon, if I'm not wrong. Mr. Phoenix here. Phoenix Trading 4773. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're from Lebanon, brother, right? So in Syria, holding flags of Israel, holding flags of the Druze, bringing their children, pictures of Bibi Netanyahu and Hekmat al-Hijri, which is the sheikh, the leader, the spiritual leader, and military leader in some ways of the Druze resistance in Syria, going and saying that they pledging alliance basically to Israel, and that they thank Israel for saving them. And they're even saying, when they came to kill us, no one helped us but God and the nation of Israel. And then saying that we will always be with you, like you are with us, we'll always. Now, this is insane, guys. This is insane. So let's watch this and then talk about the rising threat that is coming from Syria. Oh, by the way, if you're here in the show right now, I just want to remind you to do the like, share, subscribe, the whole shebang. And if you want to help support my channel, go and check my Patreon. Practical, great ways to help me do my work. You're not going to get there anything, guys. Nothing. Well, sometimes here and there a video. I'm just going to be honest. I'm so busy right now doing this. But if you want to help support my video, that's a great way. Terrible at sales, right? Terrible at sales. Hey, guys, support me. I'm giving you nothing. But anyway, so let's watch.
ضخم في السويداء حيث جاب الأهالي شوارع المدينة رافعين راية التوحيد وأعلام دولة إسرائيل. نحن اليوم 24/11 من جبل الباشان بمسيرة تأييد من المدنيين الدروز، شكر لدولة إسرائيل، لجيش إسرائيل، لأخوتنا اليهود ودروز إسرائيل. نشكر بيبي نتنياهو اللي قال نحن مصممون على حماية حلفائنا الدروز، ونحن بنقول نحن مصممين نكون معك. نحن ما كان بدنا الانفصال عن سوريا، نحن عم ننفصل عن القاعده، عن داعش، عن الفكر الارهابي المتطرف. الاحداث اللي صارت بحمص امبارح، قتل العلويين نفسها صارت عندنا بسويدا، وبعدهم لليوم عم يهددونا ومحتلين قرانا وبدهم يقتلونا. ما حدا حمانا غير رب العالمين ودوله اسرائيل وجيش اسرائيل وكل دروز اسرائيل اللي وقفوا جنبنا. نحن بمسيره تأييد ومعهم للابد.
Wow. So, just to break it down to you, what he said, all the stuff that he said, yesterday, the Syrian regime went again to the. By the way, you see the sign that she's making? That's very important. This sign is a sign of victory that the Druze are doing right now in Syria, and it became like the V sign, which is a sign of you tried to massacre us and we survived. And it became a sign of victory. You see another guy is doing the sign, and Druze are starting to do the sign. It's a sign that is becoming very viral among the Druze. Listen to this. This is insane. Watch this. Oh, sorry. You have to listen to this. I know. You listen to what he's saying. I had a translation for you guys here so you can read it. Oh, we missed. Jabal al-Bashan. هذا جبل البشان. The Druze in Syria have basically stopped calling it Syria, stopped calling it many other names. They're calling it Jabal al-Bashan, the mountain of the Bashan. If you don't know, the Bashan is the name that was during the Bible of the Jews when Syria belonged to the Jewish nation. There was a famous story there, Og, Melech HaBashan, Og, the king of the Bashan, and others. And there was a lot of events that were happening in the Bible. And it's a Jewish name for that area, which will relate to the next video we're going to watch, which is Jews right now in Israel. There's a movement that want to go and reclaim that. And even today, a bunch of young Jewish religious men broke into Syria with their pickup truck, their redneck, Jewish kind of pickup truck, and went into Syria in order to open their Jewish settlement, and the IDF got them and kicked them out. But anyway, sticking to that, the Alawites 2 days ago were being massacred again. So the Syrian regime sent its forces and started killing with its people, just massacring, killing Alawites, all the way to the point that actually, here, watch this. You see this here? This is a letter that was printed by an Alawite or a Christian in Syria. Alawite is a religion of its own and have some similarities, Christianity and Islam together. It's mixed in many Muslim aspects. It's considered, a kuffar. Some will tolerate it, some not. But anyway, that's a story of its own. So they're a minority there. And by the way, yes, Bashar al-Assad was an Alawi, but it doesn't mean that every Alawite is evil. Far from that. It doesn't mean that every Alawite right now is a criminal. Many of them were just innocent civilians who are trying to live their life under a very oppressive regime, and now they're being massacred and killed, and all eyes on the Alawites. People are just ignoring what is happening there. So he held a sign, and in his sign, let me read it for you, what it says: to the state, to the nation of Israel, to the great nation of Israel, we demand that you save us, that you support us, that you save the Alawites. And then it says, El Jawlani, from the shoreline of the Alawites. That's an area in Syria that is considered the area of the Alawites. But listen to this. Minorities in the Middle East, again and again, end up calling for the Jewish state to come and save us. And save us from who? From the Muslims. Again and again, we're hearing the same story of Islam eradicating ethnicities, erasing them from the face of this earth, and the ones that manage to survive are crying for help. Usually they're just hiding and try not to lift their head up, but when things get really hard and they realize they have to speak, they try to speak with a heavy price that comes with it. And when you see minorities in Muslim countries begging Israel to rescue them, that is one of the key signs that things have went really bad in that area. So bad that they are risking it to cross a bridge and burn the bridge behind them. Meaning, from now onward, there's no way back for them. So a person that will risk burning a bridge or burning his boat is a person that will see that there's literally no other way. They are facing ethnical cleansing. They are facing a real genocide by the Syrian regime, by the Muslims in Syria. And the world is just ignoring. Christians, Alawites, Yazidis, Druze, everyone in Syria that is not Muslim, that can't defend himself, is under the threat of a genocide. And very important, guys, that we kind of share that, because it's happening under our nose and the world is just staying silent. So that Alawites pledging for help there. Now, it all kind of started happening about a week and a half ago. The Israeli ambassador to the UN, the guy on the left with the Snoop Dogg Thug Life kind of glasses, gotta forgive my graphic design skills, and the Syrian ambassador to the UN on the right had a heated argument where Syria was blaming Israel for not giving back the occupied Golan Heights. And they say, this is our land, give it back to us. And Israel told them basically, go sleep on your nose, you're not going to get anything. And then they say, yeah, well, why not? And Israel said, because we don't trust you. You guys are a bunch of terrorists. And then the guy said, well, our allies trust us. We have proven to our allies that we're trustworthy, which is a complete lie. I mean, who is your allies? Jihadistan and Afghan, like seriously, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, that's your allies? Of course they trust you. They don't trust themselves even. And then Israel came and said, we will not, and that's a key point, guys, we will not allow armed militias to be at our border again. And by that, calling the entire nation of Syria, basically, and I would even take it further, every Muslim in Syria as part of this armed militia. We don't trust you guys. We don't want you close to our borders. We've done that mistake on October 7th. We're not going to do it again. And a week later, a classified document is allowed to be revealed with the public, showing a real concern of the Minister of Defense, Israel Katz. That's like the Minister of War in the United States. And he comes and he says that there is reliable intelligence, that there's Palestinian groups starting and terrorist base, basically, in all of the area, the southern area of Syria, with direct plans to invade Israel and to come inside Israel so they can go and murder and massacre Jews, Druze, Christians, whatever, and do another October 7 in the real attempt to genocide Israel. Now, listen to this. This is coming as an official concern by the state of Israel, and they're saying that the government of Syria is not only aware of that, is actually supporting that. Guys, this is mind-blowing because this, fast forward, Syria looks like Gaza, completely desolated, destroyed, all kind of Syrian men going around, please subscribe, we're poor, life is terrible, oh, we're victims. And bomb, Israel is just literally like wiping the ground out of them, like whipping, camel poop with their face and smothering them. And the whole world is Israel, stop. So I just read to you the future of how Syria is probably going to look like if they continue. I need to remind you, Syria, military-wise, is literally on the bottom of the food chain of the Middle East. They're one of the weakest countries right now, and for a very long time. Israel's on the top. Israel is by far, the strongest army in the Middle East, one of the strongest armies in the world. If it comes in terms of training capabilities, I will humbly say it's the strongest army. I know some Americans would not like it, but I am quite confident. Take 1,000 Israeli soldiers, everything, special forces, normal soldiers, infantry, air force, blah, blah, blah. Take 1,000 Americans, 9 out of 10 Israel will win. I mean, that's my opinion. I've trained with Americans. They're great. Maybe 8 out of 10, okay? Obviously, America is way stronger. It's a much bigger country. But in terms of training and capabilities, because Israel have the Mossad also, have so many other things, have so much more experience and trainings that most armies literally have no chance. I mean, look what Ukraine done to Russia. So there is something about being a very skilled small army and what you can do. And let's just be honest, Israel is very, very strong. So back, I know I might have made a lot of Americans right now pissed, but you know what, guys? That's my opinion. Feel free, prove me wrong. Read it in the comments. Maybe we can do a video about it one day. Who's going to win, Delta Force or Sayeret Matkal? So Israel is the strongest army in the Middle East, by far. Syria is one of the weakest armies. Syria is more radical than Gaza. Syria, unlike Gaza, is not surrounded by Israel that can control what comes in, what comes out, and making sure that no weapons are going in and no radicalization is going out. No Free Palestine is going out, because Free Palestine is basically October 7. It's a genocide. That's why it's so silly when you see Queers for Palestine calling for that. So, and even with Israel, trying to make sure that Gaza doesn't, do an October 7, they managed to still do it, and they, dealt a lot of damage and just horrific ways. Syria doesn't have any border around it. Between Syria to Israel, it's a clear open corridor that is an ISIS land, Al-Qaeda land. ISIS and Al-Qaeda are about the most moderate terrorist organizations in Syria in some ways. Israel is a startup nation. Startups are popping up every second. Syria is an jihadist startup nation. Like every second day, a terrorist group starts in Syria that is more extreme, even more creative in their jihadists. Ahmed, Abdullah, Mahmoud, Aziz, Idbah al-Yahud, same song, always the same. That is Syria, guys. It is always creating more and more terrorist organizations and just getting more and more radicalized. And we saw it with the massacre of the Alawites, the Christians, and the Druze. No one is there to stop it. The government is not even stopping it. The government is Al-Qaeda. So Syria is a very, very serious threat to the region. It is full of radical, very evil jihadists all across the country. Now, there's people in Syria that are peaceful. There's people in Syria that want to choose life over death, but they're oppressed and they don't even dare to speak. I talked to some of them. They don't share. I'm not going to share their identities, of course. and I've been following some of them. They've been sharing with me the whole destruction of Syria after Bashar al-Assad, how Syria got even worse. We're talking about right now Muslims in Syria that are freely telling me how things are going bad and how crazy their country are becoming. So Syria is a serious threat. And here, let's read this article. It's a very, very interesting article to read. We're going to read this together. The people on Instagram, I'm sorry if you sometimes don't see me in the video. I'm doing a live here on both. That's again my epic graphic design skills. So Israel Katz basically said, Minister of Defense, in a classified security briefing in Syria, there are forces that are thinking about invading the Golan communities. Israel doesn't usually just throw stuff like that. And then the Jerusalem Post came and said this: terror groups builds new Syria base with regime backing. These are serious accusations, guys. Serious accusations with regime backing. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is building its military presence in Syria with the regime's full knowledge and support. According to Israel media reports, the group's armed wing has significantly expanded operations in refugee camps near Damascus in recent weeks. Now, this was what they said about Damascus. We're getting from our Druze sources and other sources. I think I probably have better sources than some of the Israeli intelligence right now. I'm not kidding. Any Druze in the world actually sometimes hear things more than before they hear them, because we have relatives there. We have people that are living there that come and call us and tell us, listen, it's happening right now. They're coming to kill us. A drone just flew. They just shot at us, and etc. U.S. airstrike ban creates an opening. So this opening of a possible another October 7 attempt is in some ways due to the misunderstanding of the U.S. regarding the situation in the Middle East and taking bad advice from wrong players. Let's read this. Syria has become an attractive base for the PIG. PIG, the Palestinian, what was it? Palestinian, how do you call it? Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Okay, remember that. An attractive base for the PIG specifically because the United States recently implemented an informal ban on Israeli airstrikes against Syria targets. This policy shift have effectively created a safer operating environment for militant groups. With all due respect to my American friends, and I love America, one of the greatest, if not, it's probably the most important country on the face of this earth. I love America. I can't say that more, and I'm so glad and thankful that America exists and that America is Christian. I'm just going to say it that way. Thank God for America. But, guys, last time when he told Israel to stop beating the crap, the cow poop out of these jihadists and Golani and his guys, they saw that as a green light to go and massacre the Christians. And then the Alawites. And then the Druze. And every time when Israel got engaged, because they begged and cried, Israel, come and save us, and Israel went in, Trump and his administration told Israel, stop. Now, why do I believe they're saying stop? And that's a whole topic for another live. Maybe we can talk about it. But in a very short way is they are getting their advice about the Middle East from Saudi Arabia, from Turkey. Turkey is becoming very, very radicalized, guys. Turkey is the big elephant in the room that no one is talking about, that is clearly showing an agenda to establish back the Ottoman Empire and their Muslim Caliphate over the world, starting with the Middle East. They're supporting Hamas. They're supporting terrorist organizations. And Erdogan is taking that country into a very, very dark path. And now they're giving advice to America and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, giving it to America, and America is listening to their advice rather than to listen to Israel. And yes, billions of dollars are involved. And the whole idea, and I'm going to finish that topic with that, make America great again does not necessarily have to be make America rich again. There are things that are more important than money, and that is the soul of your nation, and that is the values that you stand on. And by stopping Israel from saving minorities in the Middle East, because the people who are giving you money are telling you that's the right thing to do and you choose to listen to them because they give a lot of money, then sorry, guys, it is not the right thing to do. Yes, I understand there's political games here to bring the Arab world in the Middle East on Team America rather than go to Team Russia and China, and etc. and etc. But still, there need to be some kind of red line that you say this shall not pass. That is my opinion on that, and thank you, my brother from Lebanon, for agreeing with me. We're gonna continue. So this behavior of America and telling Israel to stop the airstrike have created a vacuum again, which is giving these. See, it's always the same, literally always the same. Every time when America tells Israel, stop killing jihadists in Syria, jihadists in Syria don't even wait a day. They jump and they start going killing Christians and Druze and Alawites. Every time, guys. It's happening 2 days ago. It's going to keep happening every time. The only thing that is holding radical Muslims in the Middle East from massacring minorities, mark my word on that, is Israel. And whenever you hold Israel, tell it, hold its hands behind its back and tell them not to go and defend these minorities get slaughtered. Just really, it's like literally scientific. As scientific as gravity. You can't argue with that rule. They have 100% success every time. Let's continue. Syria government under Ahmed al-Shara has appointed a special envoy. Oh, let's go back. That was an interesting one. I've been waiting for this day all my life. If you've seen Gambit and Deadpool versus Wolverine, I'm going to make a name to myself. Great speech. Syrian government under Ahmed al-Shara has appointed a special envoy whose sole responsibility is facilitating communications between the PIJ leadership and Syrian authorities. This shows active coordination, not just passive tolerance of the group's presence. So they have a new terrorist group, a new version of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamastown all together. This time it's an ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas brought a baby together. Don't ask me how. They managed to bring a baby together. A goat-headed, ugly, tusik-faced baby. And they're going and facilitating coordinations with them. How can we help you with logistics? Here's the phone number. You can talk to us. Let's talk. Let's talk. First of all, for Syria, guys, these people would literally bring, and if you're a Syrian and you're listening to this, please listen carefully. This path would utterly lead to the destruction of your regime. Israel can topple the Syrian regime in a day. I don't think they understand that. It is a problem when you live in a country that have a lot of inbreeds and a low IQ. Literally proven. By the way, I've done a research. I've been doing a few days now a research. I'm going to make a video about it, about the IQ in Syria and in Lebanon and in the Middle East, in Muslim countries. And you know what I found? Crazy, actually. Here. I'll say that again for the people on Instagram. So I've been doing a research the last few days about the IQ level in Syria, Lebanon, Middle East, Egypt, Jordan, in Muslim countries. And you know what I found? That in all these countries, the group that have the lowest IQ is the Muslims. And the groups that have the highest IQs are the Christians and the Druze. So, I don't know. What does it tell you? If the majority of the country have a radical religion and have a low IQ, then no doubt that they never do anything to solve their problem. You just gave a bunch of idiots that keep marrying themselves to take all the decisions. And you give them weapons and guns. I'm not joking, literally. Go and check it out. You're going to have to work your way around political correctness and wokeness. I've trained my ChatGPT to stop being correct and woke. And, whenever I ask him to do research, and then I go and I read it myself, and I ask him, show me the sources, and I go and check it myself to actually find out, is it really true? And literally, there's enough statistics that shows that the IQ level of these nations, 85 Muslim in the world, that is true. Now, take away the smart Muslim countries, boom, you drop down, and also add into that in Western societies it's more common to do IQ tests. So meaning that the ones who actually went and did an IQ test in these countries, idiots don't go and do an IQ test. I studied psychology. I know a little bit about that testing. You need to do the test. An idiot doesn't go. So it means that the smartest people in that society say, "Oh, I want to check my IQ," and then they go and do it, and then they get such a low score. So imagine all the people who didn't do the IQ test. So probably the score is even way, way lower. Anyway, let's continue with our video here. Syria's government under Ahmed al-Shara has appointed a special, not just passive tolerance, group presence. The PIG's Syria expansion is part of a broader regime coordination. Hamas is simultaneously strengthening ties with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israeli officials warn terror groups are building capabilities on multiple fronts to encircle Israel. So it's quite actually easy to understand what's happening, and I'll explain it in a way that you understand. Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic Jihad, radical jihad, in general, a big chunk of the Muslim world, let's be honest, always wanted to destroy Israel. They want to conquer the world. Islam in general want to take over the world. And they lost to Israel. So then they created this fake narrative, Muslim Brotherhood on steroids, called Palestinian State, a terrorist group, to destroy Israel from within and take away the legitimacy of Israel to exist, and basically force them to kill as many of their children so the world will get tired of Israel. It's sad. And Golda Meir once said that, we will never forgive the Arabs for forcing us to kill their children. What a powerful statement to say. It just shows you everything you need to know about this conflict. Israel doesn't want to kill them, but they keep using the children as human shields and indoctrinating child soldiers to go and commit suicide bombings, suicide attacks, stabbings, and killing and shooting. And by that, end up being either arrested or killed by the IDF from self-defense perspective, or attempts to defend life. And then they're bringing it themselves. And by that, dehumanizing Israel. So, where was I? Forgot the point I was talking about. It was an important point, but I'll remember it when I come back to it. Let's continue. Multiple fronts. So Hamas is getting defeated now. And instead of complete surrendering, they're shifting their work now to Syria. Surprise, surprise, right? Syria is going to become the next Palestine, the next Hamas town, and the next Muslim Brotherhood hub of terrorism. And the government of Syria is aware of that, and they're not doing anything to stop it, and actually in some way supporting it. And what do they think is going to happen when Israel will say enough is enough? I think literally the only solution for that is low IQ mixed with radical religion. Otherwise, you'd think that they would learn a lesson by now, that just stop trying to kill the Jews. Literally, guys, stop trying to kill the Jews. It doesn't work. It doesn't do you any good. Israel's still there, and all your terrorists keep dying one after the other. Nasrallah, Sinwar, Mahmoud, Mahbouz. Everybody you bring keep getting killed, and again, and all your regimes keep collapsing and falling, and you're always fixated on killing the Jews. Not working. Stop it and work on yourself. Work on making your countries better. Work on making your people kind, full of love, to be hungry for education, for science. Teach your people to be hungry for literature, for reading books, reading Shakespeare, reading about philosophers, reading about Elon Musk who want to go and colonize Mars. Have your young people becoming programmers and inspired to go and improve the world. Seriously, teach them things that will make their life better. But instead of that, you're teaching them always Allahu Akbar, Takbir, Takbir, Haybar, Haybar, Ya Yahud. Like, where is that going to lead the Muslim world? Seriously, there was a short time in the Islamic history where they were actually going up, very short time, until they started debating their own religion and finding that there was a lot of holes in that religion. And then they rebranded that religion into a way that you can't criticize that religion. Anyone who talks about it should be dead, and no one can even say anything against it. And you got to go and blindly just follow. And that was when Islam closed its door to science, to tolerance, to absorbing other cultures. Literally closed itself, doomed itself, and started going down. Syria is on a very wrong path, and let's continue. They want to encircle Israel on multiple fronts. And again, the Minister of Defense is saying there's an imminent threat from the Golan forces in Syria are planning to invade Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a joke. We've been warning you about that, and people are just ignoring it. And for the last part of the episode, these young, crazy Mishugana Israelis have broken into Syria with their pickup truck. This is the equivalent of the Israeli rednecks, let's call them that way. It's a lot of the religious, Na'arei Gvoot, they call them many times, the hill boys, hilly-billy boys. And some of them are very smart, by the way, but a lot of them have a little bit crazy ideas now and then. So they jumped on the pickup trucks and they drove into Syria with the intent of building a Jewish settlement in the Bashan area, which they see as a Jewish area. And I actually interviewed one of their leaders. Let's watch this video. I'm going to tell you what one of their leaders told me. Fascinating conversation. I did a podcast with him on Shishi Druzi Friday, Druze Friday in Hebrew, and we'll talk about it.
להוציא משלחת ראשונה לכתר החרמון בשם כל ישראל. באנו ליישב את הבשן שלנו. עלו נעלה וירשנו אותה כנכון נוכל. בואו הצטרפו.
So he says, we are the pilgrims who went to resettle the Bashan mountain, and then he recited the verse from the Bible, Alon Ale, and saying that go forward and take that land, and etc. Crazy ideas, young man. What could go wrong? That is a very true. De la Findial 5539. So I spoke to one of the leaders of this movement, Chalutzei Bashan, the Bashan pilgrims, call them, or expedition, people in the front of that idea. And he came and he told me, listen, one of the reasons that we suffered October 7 is because we disengaged from Gaza and we took the Jewish settlement from Gaza. So Jewish settlements in these peripheral kind of areas around Israel are the best line of defense. When you have Jewish boots on the ground, you have people living there, they live the ground, they feel the ground, they see what's happening, and it stops October 7 and other invasions. Now, on top of that, obviously, it's not only God and spiritually because they have a kippah and do prayers. There's the IDF is there because they're living there, and then the IDF is protecting them, and then the IDF is always one of the elements that you have from the world of special forces and the world of military is when you have an enemy, you want to always, they teach that in the IDF, you want to always be in physical touch, call it, Khatira lemaga, always be in touch with the enemy, always, fraction with the enemy. Because when you are with the enemy in fraction interaction, you feel the enemy. It's like playing chess and you're the one always taking the first step and he's reacting to you. He takes a step, you react to him. You never want to disengage from the enemy because that's when the enemy does things that you don't know what's happening. And then it goes behind your back and I don't know what. So what they're saying is when you have Jewish settlement in these areas, that is the best line of defense that Israel can have because they're over there, they're feeling the ground, and the enemy is trying to always come at them, and the IDF is protecting them, and we never give the enemy the chance to regroup, reorganize, and come with a surprising October 7. And you know what, guys? He was right. Regarding Gaza, he was 100% right. I was there when Israel disengaged from Gaza. I left Gaza right before they gave the command to the soldiers to take the Jewish people out of Gaza, and I went actually to Ramallah in that area, and some of my soldiers had their families in Gaza, in Morag, in Kfar Aza, and other places. And plucking the Jewish community, the settlements out of Gaza, and giving these greenhouses and these little beautiful towns to the Gazans was one of the main reasons that October 7 happened. Undoubtedly. Try to convince me otherwise, I'm sorry. It's not going to work. And I thought about this a lot. And back then, I was maybe a little bit more skeptic when they told me. I remember that image when they plucked a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi, and they had to sedate him. and drag him. And he was shouting and he was screaming and he was saying, "We are here. We are protecting you. We are defending you. Once we're out of Gaza, you will be next." And I remember when I saw that video and I felt for him, felt for his family, but I did not really believe him that much. I thought, like, oh, next. I was there. I defended them. The soldiers, the IDF. So we'll just defend from the other border. And boy, how wrong was I and many, many Israelis like me. That was a mistake to disengage from Gaza, and that led to what we saw on October 7. So these young Jewish religious guys, they see it as now we have Syria, and now is the time to build Jewish settlements in Syria, reclaim back Syria. Let's be honest, Syria never belonged to Muslims. It belonged before to the Jews and then to the Christians, never to Muslims. They came by force and took it, and they're saying, let's take it from them now. At least that area. And that would be the best way to defend Israel. Practically speaking, not morally right now, practically speaking, they're 100% right. If there will be a Jewish settlement there, that area will flourish, will have more agriculture, more science, more peace, freedom, more tolerance, and all the minorities around will, be happy. Because the Jews are very kind and the Jews are very humane. And as a non-Jew living in a Jewish country, I can say that for a fact. And I am a non-Jew that have relatives that are living in Muslim countries, and is the complete opposite. So these guys wanting to go, it's only the beginning. You're going to start seeing more and more of them, especially as you see Druze and Alawites and minorities from Syria coming and saying, please come and take us. Please save us. Come, anx us. Literally, like, minorities are waking up. It's like finally exposing your neighbor that he's a sexual offender and an abuser, and he's been kidnapping children and abusing them in the basement, and then suddenly, he goes outside and he does something wrong. He steps the boundaries and he messed with the wrong person, crossed the line with Israel, neighbor Israel, and gets his up. And in this commission, as he's fighting, he starts calling for, Saudi Arabia, come and help me. Turkey, come and help me. Israel is beating me up. And a lot of fuzz is happening in the house Syria. And all of a sudden, the children that are hiding in the basement start screaming, help, help, we're here. They're abusing us. They're sexually attacking us. They're doing stuff to us. Please help. And then a few cameras come and they film them. Oh my God, there's children here in the basement. There's like literally minorities who are being slaughtered and killed and ethnically cleansed by this regime. Thank God that Israel, went and just, they walked in the street and he threw a bottle of beer and hit Israel in the head. It's like, what the F? Goes and start beating him up. And then suddenly everything gets exposed. This guy who was pretending to be a tough guy is get his tusik beat up. And all eyes suddenly are on these innocent children. Children is the minorities in the story. And everybody realized, my God, what is going on in Syria? And then all of a sudden, Syria comes, America, help us. Saudi Arabia, Turkey gives them a lot of money. Tell them to help us. And then Saudi Arabia jumps in. America takes $1 billion. Please listen to us. Don't listen to Israel. Stop it. America, blinky, shiny. Israel, stop. Khalas. You've done enough. You beat up. I was with you. I helped you. I gave you B bombers. I gave you bunker busters. I was with you. I'm with you. But come on. Hey, come on. They're giving me a lot of money, man. So stop beating the crap out of everyone. You don't need to beat the crap out of everyone in one day. Let them give us $1 billion now, and let's beat them up like in a month or two, But don't take their money. It's good. I think that's kind of the game that America knows that Syria is not an ally and that the Muslim world is not an ally. But I think, like, come on, Israel, just let us enjoy their money and their support now, and later on we can go and beat the crap out of them. So Israel stops, and then these oppressed children that started yelling out of the basement, the Druze, the Alawites, the Kurds, the Yazidis, and etc., they're now having the husband, the father of this house, going back with a black eye, full of anger, drunk out of, goat milk and goat sperm. You know what? They don't drink goat milk, these guys. They drink goat sperm. Sorry for the language, guys. But anyway, they milk male goats. Oh my God. I don't know if you've seen Ice Age when Sid tries to milk the ox, and it's a male ox, and start running. Ice Age, great movie. Go watch it with Sid. Can't believe it, Johnny again to me. Really good movie. I can't wait for Rafi Have you guys seen this movie? Am I the only one laughing here? It's getting late here. I'm starting with my nerdy jokes. Go watch Ice Age. I think it's with Buck. It's the last Ice Age, I think. He tries to milk a male ox, a bison. He thinks it's a cow. So this guy goes after milking a male goat, get kicked in the face, Ahmed al Shara in Syria, and he goes back home and he takes all of his anger and frustration on these innocent minorities, on the children, on the Christians, on the Druze, on the Alawites, on the Yazidis, and the world know about it. And Israel has been told to not save them. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, a summarization of the entire situation with Syria as it keeps unfolding. It's just a different kind of milk. You dirty mind. You dirty mind. So to summarize it all, guys, I'm gonna do my best to give you an update. I call this show of mine. How do you say it here? Where is it? No, you can see it here. No, you can see it here. It takes us down. I call this show The Three Monkeys. See it, hear it, say it. Funk cancel culture. I just hate cancel culture. So I haven't been canceled yet. Sure as hell, from with the content and the stuff that I'm talking about, it might seem that I'm working on it. I'm not. But I'm going to keep trying to share the truth, be honest about it in the way that I see it. I might be wrong. I'm just a human like anyone else. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I deal with emotions. Not as many. To be honest, I think I'm pretty balanced. Like compared to other humans, I always laugh like with my friends. I'm like, humans. I think I'm in general just a pretty stable guy, well-rounded. Like I don't deal with a lot of emotions that other humans deal with, like ups and downs and all kind of stuff. But people do that. Okay, I also, if I don't sleep for a few days, I might get a little bit grumpy. But literally, I have to like not sleep for like 4 days. So I can do a mistake. That's my point. I went AWire here. Fact check everything I'm saying. Feel free to challenge what I'm saying. Bring it to the debate. Let's talk. One of the reasons that I've refused so many sponsorship deals and support deals, and it was hard. I'll be very honest with you. Sometimes I did need that support for the work for so long. I left a great job before and started doing this, but I kept telling myself, and that's something that I've actually learned when I was in the special forces and the training. There's always tomorrow. There's always the goal, and you should never give up until you reach that goal. And my goal was to come to a place that I have a channel that I can freely speak my mind without the influence of anyone that is telling me you should talk about this and don't talk about that. And that is the goal that I'm trying to get to. So I'm going to keep trying to do this with my show, and hopefully it will keep growing. And I want to remind everybody here, if you're here and watching and you enjoy my content, go and do the like, share, subscribe, the whole shebang. Help the gods of the algorithm to push this content to other people out there so the channel keep growing. By the way, I don't know how many followers I have on Instagram, on YouTube, but let's see for a second. Where can I find my account? My channel. Aha! I have 57.7 thousand subscribers on YouTube, which means we're very close to 60. I think it would be a nice thing if we can round it up to 60. So if you're watching this right now and you haven't subscribed, go and do me a favor, subscribe if you find my content worthy. And if you have friends that you think can benefit from hearing the only Druze English-speaking podcaster on planet Earth, possibly on the galaxy, most likely in the Milky Way for sure, might be also in the universe. Again, I haven't checked other planets. I didn't travel through a black hole yet to go to another dimension. Maybe there's another planet Earth with Druze in it. And over there's a Druze vlogger, podcaster that is just, killing it, rocking it. It could be. So I don't want to cancel that option. But as far as I know, I'm the only Druze podcaster that is doing podcasts in English out there. So if you have anyone that could benefit from actually hearing the voice of an actual Druze, a minority, former special forces from the IDF, who is dashingly handsome and have great sense of humor, then then you might not, I don't know where that guy is, but who is below average handsome and having okay dad jokes, then here's a guy right here. Right here. Recommend that. Help the channel keep growing. Let's get to 60,000. Now I'm going to try to answer some questions and then we're going to finish the show. Oh my God. Okay, there's a lot of comments. I do know that we also train in counterterrorism unit in India. India have a very, very serious army. One of the strongest armies in the world is India. I think India will be the next nation to save the world. I'm not kidding. I'll explain. If America keeps going in the path that they're going right now, Muslim Brotherhood is going to destroy America from within. Undoubtedly. Like literally, it's so dangerous. People don't understand how dangerous Muslim Brotherhood and how well they exploit Western humanitarian ideology and society and the legal system. They exploit it so well that it's very hard to stop it. Once you let it in your society, it will destroy it from within. So if America doesn't get destroyed by either communism or Islam, these are the two biggest threats for America. Wokeism is just a tool for communism or Islam to destroy America from within. Then India will be the next line of defense for the Western world against China and against Russia. No one else. Europe, forget about it. They would not. They can't. They literally. They don't have the army. They don't have the mentality. The civilians in Europe are not anymore. The Vikings that want to go and fight and defend their country. No, they lost that long time ago. They're just ready to be taken. Russia, probably not a good option to lead the world. China have done very shady things, guys. Who else? India. So just to leave it out there, I think India is a very important country right now for planet Earth. Let's see if there's any other interesting questions. Mantiel M. Shrimp. I just like the name. Well, another October 7 must not be allowed to happen. Hallelujah, brother. I agree. What's the difference between Matizizah Bupah Mitzizah and regular? I should check comments before. Anyway, that was the wrong. I should check comments before I just put them on the screen. My God. I'm going to read that again. I'm not going to say that joke out loud. Let's see. Wow, people were talking in the comments about a lot of oral sex. Let's see. Leah. I trust Leah to always bring some reasonable, responsible adult with a lot of sense of humor to the room. So just don't understand the financial buckers of terrorists being shown respect by the U.S. politician. What happened in the Middle East will happen here in the USA. That is very true, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, Jenin had a bounty of $10 million on his head. And because he was an active Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorist by America. By the way, the same like Tabatabi that was just killed by Israel. By the way, America couldn't really find that guy. They put this bounty on him. Hezbollah guy, $5 million on his head. They didn't have an image of him even. And then one day Israel came and says, this guy, we know where he is. Bam, go kill him. It seems like Israel is the only country that is killing the enemies of America lately. So I do think that will be probably a good idea to give that $5 million to Israel. I think that's a good idea, right? They're doing the dirty job of America. They're killing their enemies. Another enemy of America was literally Al-Jawlani. And just like that guy, he even had a bigger bounty on his head. That guy had $5 million, the Hezbollah chief of staff, second in command of Hezbollah. Israel just took him out like 3 days ago. Jawlani had $10 million. So he was a bigger fish. And he never really changed. He's done nothing to take that bounty out of his head. He didn't go to jail. Spent 50 lifetimes in jail. somehow managed to live forever. After like 700 years, came out and said, I paid my due, guys. Metushelach and me are fine now. And then he goes out and he's like, okay, the guy, come on, he was 700 years in jail. We can let him go out. Okay, let's be friendly to him. He got bitten by a vampire camel, and now, like, fair. No, he never repented. He never stopped being Al Qaeda, never stopped being ISIS. He actually went and by force took an entire nation hostage, Syria, and is right now enforcing Salafi Sunnah radical jihadist on that country and ethnically cleansing its people. And all of a sudden, that bounty is lifted off from his head. He's invited to America, to the White House. He meets Donald Trump and he gets a golden perfume, which is equivalent of Saddam Hussein giving a golden AK-47. For some reason, Donald Trump gave him a golden perfume. Great sense of humor, I gotta say. Maybe he sprayed him with some spray that will make that gets camels and goats super horny, and they will just hear him now and start chasing him. He's like running, Donald Trump, what have you done to me? With like a bunch of sheep running after him in the desert, because it was a scent of fertility in the world of farm animals in the desert. But either way, the guy's a terrorist. The guy is literally an Al Qaeda terrorist. And nothing changed. So someone who was a terrorist just stops being a terrorist, and all of a sudden they start giving him perfumes. Phoenix mentioned something about Abu Baba, and he mentioned that managing the attacks on the Jews in Syria. Now it looks like the puzzle is getting together. Maybe you can explain that, Phoenix. Phoenix, by the way, is a Druze that is living in Lebanon, and he's a follower that has been following us for a while, and he always brings a good insight about the life of the Jews. So maybe you can explain about Abu Baba, and if not, then that's okay. But anyway, guys, just wanted to say again, thank you so much. Stay safe, and in general, don't do anything stupid. And I'm gonna give a few seconds to Phoenix to come and explain to us. Cyprus, Armenia, and Greece should keep Turkey in check. That's the only way. Well, you're right. Until they get taken from the inside by Islam, which doesn't seem to be that far. So imagine how many checks you have right now on Islam that is done by Christians and Western countries, and what will happen when they stop. For example, what will stop the UK from declaring Israel as a terrorist state and starting to take real military action against Israel once the UK will become 50% Muslim? Nothing. What will stop the UK from supporting terrorist groups as an official statement of the country when the UK become 40% Muslim? Nothing. Because democracy, they will take it over from inside. So right now, the only one that is holding Islam, and you've seen how crazy is Islam behaving, but the only one that's holding them at bay, at check, is actually the Western world. So here, Phoenix answered the question. During the attacks on Sueda, many sources mentioned that Abu al-Bara, Hamas leader, was the military planner of these attacks. That's true. There were actually sources that mentioned that this guy, Hamas leader, was working from within to destabilize Syria and to get them to become radical Muslims and start hating and killing minorities, and also using that hate to fuel the hate towards Israel, calling the Druze collaborators with Israel, and etc., etc. And which is not a big surprise, because when you think about it, almost any time Palestinians got a grip in another country, it ended up leading that country into a spiral of terror and destruction. And if they were not taken out in time, Palestinians, Muslim Brotherhood, they're the same thing, guys. And then later on, that country was literally destroyed forever. Egypt almost fell to that a few times. Jordan almost fell for that. Saudi Arabia felt it for a short time and kicked them out really fast. So in many Arab countries, the whole notion of Palestine and the Muslim Brotherhood is considered illegal. And in Syria, they're roaming free right now, and you can see what they're having. Anyway, so thank you so much, Phoenix, for that. Guys, I'm gonna finish the call right now. Again, as I always say, don't do anything stupid, and that is a very good rule for life. See you next time.